Yeah, shkoyach everyone, and thank you all very much for making the effort to be here today. It's a good example of how every single person counts. And it's also an example of how the Jews of the diaspora can't do without the Jews of Eretz Israel. So up until now in Pirkei Avot, we have throughout chapter 2, we have been learning about Rabban Gamliel's, Rabbi Shimon's, Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, all of whom were descendants of the great Hillel. Hillel started this incredible dynasty in which all of his descendants for a number of generations were the Nasi. The Nasi, before there was, at this point in time, the Nasi was effectively the leader of the community, the prince. In chapter 1, we actually already had three Mishnayot with teachings of Hillel. But as we come now to continue in chapter 2, we come back again to a whole string of further teachings from Hillel. So in many respects, the first part of Pirkei Avot is dominated by Hillel and by his descendants. Who was this remarkable man, by the way, just to put Hillel back into perspective again? He arrived from Babylon at the age of 40, and he would pay half of his daily earnings. He worked as a common laborer, and he would pay half of what he earned to a gatekeeper to gain admittance to the academies of Shmaya and Avtalyon, who were his teachers. In those days, you were not permitted to enter into the academy unless you actually paid at the door. And in time, he became a very devoted disciple. And after their death, there was an occasion when the heads of Judaism couldn't resolve a particular question of law. And Hillel was the only one who could actually answer it. And as a consequence, they were so impressed with his learning that he became Nasi, the president of the Great Sanhedrin, which was a religious council in Jerusalem. And as a matter of fact, there is a tradition that there was a bat kol, a heavenly echo, that testified that had his generation been worthy, the divine presence would have rested upon him and made him a prophet. And when he died, he was eulogized as a pious, modest, and the disciple of Ezra. It was, of course, Hillel who taught the golden rule to would-be convert, what is hateful to you, do not do to your fellow man. And that's the entire Torah. The rest is commentary. Turns out that he was a person of exceptionally saintly character. He practiced sincerity and modesty and humility in his private life. And according to the Midrash, he lived 120 years like Moshe Rabbeinu. Yeah? And his life was divided into 3 periods. Until 40, he was a worker in Babylon. From 40 to 80, he studied for 40 years in the land of Israel. And from 80 onwards, he was the Nasi, the patriarch of the Jewish people. So for those of us who are somewhere between the ages of 40 and 80, have heart, there's still time for us to become great scholars. But we have to work at it during these intermediate years. So that was the Hillel, who now is going to teach us in Mishnah 2 of the second parak, starting with, so in Mishnah 3, with a very important teaching, Al Tifrosh Min HaTzibur, don't separate yourself from the community, which we'll come back to speak about tomorrow.